Or Section 2, draw gear and run gear. 85, the draw gear and connections. Rule 109, the draw gear between the unit with the locomotive with the connection between the truck with the ample strength will be maintained with the shape of the suitable with the condition with the stroke of the provision will be made with the second with the draw gear. Pin with the pins are articulated with the connection with the plate with the stroke will provide on the lower end of the draw bar. Pin with the accumulate with the connection. Pin with the prevent with the piping of the pinning of the falling out with the plate with the case with the dragging with the drawbars. Pins will use the between the any with the locomotive with the remove with the any of the everything conditions made with clear not later so then frequently with the once every fixed moment then when you with the bridge swim in the truck with the remove with each time on the locomotive with the ship with the general equal arm repairs will not for less frequently than once every 18 months with the drawbar. Pin with the remove with the day or with the connection inspect with the carefully to effect with the day with the last remove with the inspection will be stamped with legibly with the head with the pins and drawbars with all prior dates obliterated. Loss of motion articulated the connection when used between the any with the locomotive between and or between the truck with the cap of the minimum will not exceed 1/4 of an inch. If the pin with the pins articulated connection between the unit with the locomotive with not less than the frequency when the inside with the expand with the pins articulated connection between the trucks will be removed with not less than frequency once every 18 months. The articulated connection pins for the removed. They are the connections inspected with the carefully to effect with the date of the last remove with the inspection stamped legibly with the head with the pin with all prior dates obliterated when the drawbars with the U with the between the units of the locomotive shafting iron with the spring buff with the permit with the proper curving with the will provide with the proper tab with each for the unit to maintain with the connection and the permanent for even the movement lateral vertical with the lost motion between the shafting irons will with the cap with the minimum must not exceed 1/2 inch of the buffer spring will be applied not less than 3/4 inch compression will at all time with the number of the position compression will keep the shafting face with the prime paper alignment with the in contact with the drawbar design construct for the purpose of the taking and the buffing of the strip of the shafting iron with the spring buff that will not be required when such drawbars are used with the loss motion of the will be kept at the minimum will not exceed with the 1/4 inch of the either end the draw gear between the with the locomotive consisting of the automatic couplers with the friction spring with the draft gear will maintain with the side of the condition loss motion either the draft gear assemblage with the not absorb with the spring with the friction device that not exceed 1/2 inch of the draw gear between the units locomotive consisting of the automatic coupler with the without friction with the spring draft gear will have the loss of motion kept at the minimum loss motion between the coupler with the coupler pocket will not exceed 1/4 inch and which assemblage with the coupler tap with the beam with the pipe with the pen with the pins with the remove with the inspect with the not less than once every 6 months with the day with the last removal of the inspection of the pins is stamped legibly with the heads with the button pins with the all prior with the draft obliterated. Draft gear attachment locomotive be securely attached with the ample strength with the maintain the safe suitable condition for services including the couplers operate for the maintenance mechanism. The standard couplers measuring 5 1/8 of an inch for the more the one between the point with the knuckle and the guard arm will be now continuing in service running a gear. Axles rule number 110. Driving tug truck with the axle with the following defects will not be continued with the insert with the cracked or bent axle with the mechanical cut with the butt drum with the cannot be made with the run cool without turning the seam the drum with the steel axle with the transverse seam with the iron axle with the in seam with the iron axle with the cover with the drum with the run how with the driving the truck axle with the unsafe with the helmet with the use of the axle and ram with the driving or truck axles more than 1/2 inch on with the original diameter except with the locomotives having all with the driving axle with the chain with the diameter with the other than the main driving axle to be made with 1 3/4 inch below with the original diameter. Cranking pins rule number 111. The crank pins will be applied with the with the shimming with the prick with the punching with the crack pin with the will not be done with the cracked or with the loosening crank pin will not be continued with the use. Crank pin collars collar bolts will be kept in tight with the drawing crank pin collars with the grader with the bore with the rod with the pin with the which with this way apply with the grip with the collars made with the integral with the outer end with the bushing motor main and side rods rule number 112 with the cracks with the defect with the motor's main and side with the rods will be continued in service will not be continued with the service bearings and bushing will fit with the rods proper. Leaving means to provide with the preventing bushing over the floating of the bushing, the design with the turning of the rod straps will fit with the prescribably bolt with the rod with the total amount with the side motion from the rod with the cranking pin the down seat with 1/4 inch the oil grease the cup is attached with the scribbly with the rod grease couple of pugs with the shoe with the will fasten the bores motor rod with the main rod bearing with the locomotive with the U with the road with the not with the plane with the diameters more than 3/32 with the inch from the front with the back of the end total loss of motion both of the ends with the not exceeding 5/32 with the inch the bore with the side of the bearing with the locomotive with the U with the road with the not exceed the pin diameter is more than 5/32 with the inch main pin with no more than 5/16 of an inch on the other pins. The bore with the motor rod with the main rod bearing with the locomotive with the U with the switches over the will not exceed with the pin diameter is more than 1/8 of an inch at the front with the no more than 5/32 with the inch of the back end and the bore side of the rod bearing with the locomotive with the switching with the not exceed the pin diameter is more than 3/16 of an inch. Jack and shaft with the rule number 113 with the jack with the shaft with the movie counterbearing was properly with the crank arm with the diff and fit properly fastened securely on the shaft When motor rods connect with the direct with the jack with the shaft, carrying arm with the disc with the bore with the shaft bearing with an axis with the journal diameter of more than 1/16 of an inch, motor driven in the gear with the bore with the shaft bearing with an axis with the journal diameter of more than 1/8 of an inch. Your quill drive, the rule number 114 of the quill with the have sufficient curvature relative to the motion of the axle with the wheel, the drive with the pin with the skirt apply with the quill to any of the following defect with the not continue with the strip with the crack, the loose driven. Drive pin with the broken, the defect with the coil spring with the broken, with the defect with the quill gear with spring seat with the saddle with the fastener. Gear guards, rule number 115, explode with the gear will provide with the suitable guards for the gears with the pinions, and with the following effects would not to be continued with the gear with the pin loose with the shaft with the gear pinion with the pinions are broken, cracked or badly worn, two with the gear, the pins with the broken, the defect with the brim fastening with the gears with the pinions out of the alignment, improper dimension, split with the gear with loose with the missing bolts. G, driving the box will shoes and wedges, rule 116, driving the boxes and shoes wedges will be maintain a safe, suitable condition for the strip of the broken loop of the bearings renewed with no more than one strip of the wood with the box and the bearing with the rest on the box. Lateral motion rule number 117. Total lateral motion between the hub and the wheel of the box, the pair with the wheel of the next with the following limit, the truck wheel with the 1 inch, the drive with the wheel with more than one pair with the wheel with 3/4 with the limit, the main and crew with the upon application for the zone with the mechanics, the master of the zone of the interior with the railway, grand division, headquarters with the leader of operation investigation, show the condition where additional lateral motion will the instant be kept with the stuff with the limit, the drive and the wheel with the ride, the crane pin with the armature with the nut, and the interfere with the other part of the locomotive. Frame and parts, rule number 118, frame and the deck plate with the tail, P for the pedestal with the brakes, wheel with the main fan, safe through for the condition with the strip with the will be clean with the inspect with thoroughly each time in the locomotive shop with the general equalizer repairs, spring braking with the rules number 119, spring with the brake equalizer with the range with the inch for the proper distribution, weight with the cushion, shock with the various wheel with the maintain approximate level. Alright, springs and spring rigging way with the following defect with the renew with the repair with the proper leaf with the top leaf with the broke with the top leaf with the top half with the 3 leaf with the broken ring with the long side with the spring that be considered with the top with the spring with the leaf with the working band with the broken coil with the spring with the broken crack with the badly worn drive and box with the equalizer with the hanger bolt and the gib or pin trucks. Rule number 120, truck center with the plate fit proper with the male center plate with the extend with the female center plate with not less than 3/4 minutes, except for the motor car truck with the construct with the transmit with the track with the gap with the screw with the center plate with the center pin with the male center with the will be extended, female center plate not with less than 1/2 inch for the end center plate with the fasten main be secure with the center pin substantial head and key with the nut with each of them suitable the means will be have the carrier bolster with the truck will be provided all with the centering device with maintained and properly. Suitable safety chain with the minimum consists length with the provided each with the corner. 4-wheel trucks set with the truck that prevents the truck slugging within the cave with the drum on the upper of the truck with the station clearance to prevent the free service and interfering with any of the upper part of the locomotive. Truck bolsters maintain approximate level of suitable name with the securing the radius of the bars pin with the place of the previous provided inverted radius bar pin will be have the place for stirrup. Strip of the trucks, if any of the following defects will not be consumed in, strip of the cracked arc bar with loose of the column, pedestal, the drone box, bolt, cracked or broken frame, and then left the properly repaired with a loose tab of the bar with the broken, the defect with the motor suspension with the leg with a spring bar with a bolt, broken, cracked, center casing, the cracked, broken equalizer hanger, gig or pin. Motor suspension lug with the bars will be given the angle ball strength with a provision made with the prevent with the nose support with the board, motor with the failing the caves, in the cave with the failure with the motor supports. Our side bearings, rule number 121, side bearing with the fastened scribbling plate with the friction with the side bearing with the spring with the desire and the carry with the weight will not be continued with the strip with no more than 25% of the spring broken into one nest friction. Side bearing with one left of the design with the carry with the weight will not be running contact mixed with the clearance with the side bearing with the not exceed 1/4 inch on each for the head of the total of 1/2 inch on both sides. If the more than one, 2 sides of the bearings are even on the same rigid superstructure when the clearance of one side bearing with one pair of side bearings on with the same rigid superstructure will not exceed 1/4 inch on each side of the total. 1/2 inch on both sides. Other side of the bearing of the same rigid superstructure may have the 1/2 inch clearance on each side of the total 1 inch on both sides. Clearance applied with the spread of the side bearings is 50 inches to the left of where the spread is greater with the side bearing clearance may be increased with the proportion of side bearings clearance may be modified if investigation show the operating of the condition of the construction warrants such modifications. And clearance above the top of the rail, rule number 122, with no applying with the locomotive except the wheels will be less than 2.5 inches above the top of the rail. Section 3, wheels.